I'm sure a lot of people probably thought I was going to quit Epic after the last video or two. Let's just say thus far I am not a huge fan of the Wisdom Saga. I think we've encountered some of the most inexplicable writing choices. I also think the music has not been my super favorite. It's not bad. I'm definitely not saying that. But it's definitely not stuff that even outside of the musical I would want to re-listen to in any respect.
That makes sense.
But we're here. We will make it through this saga. We will make it through this musical. No, I make it sound like I'm suffering. Look, I can, again, get upset at songs and choices and stuff that's made and still want to continue. I still want to continue. So we will carry on. Obviously perfectly. We've got Peg. Oh, who's very mad that I'm picking her up. She is here to be my self-soother. While I continue on this journey. So the next song here is We'll Be Fine. Given the events of Little Wolf, I would bet this is probably Athena and Telemachus. Now again, in the Odyssey, Athena comes first and talks with Telemachus, and then we start seeing stuff go down with the suitors. All verbal, nothing physical, obviously. So I'm curious. I have not loved the treatment of Athena thus far. I mean, really the only song with Athena where I've been like, yeah, no, we're still cool with like how we're doing Athena was her first song, which is Warrior of the Mind. My Goodbye, I, very notably by this point had my issues with it, and I don't love what's going on in general thus far in Wisdom Saga, so we're gonna keep going, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Still want to know where we go.
I had a friend before and he was a lot like you. I helped him fight through war, but he had his demons too, and then we grew apart. Then his light went dark.
I'm assuming she's talking about Odysseus, and she's trying to be vague about it to Telemachus for reasons that are beyond me. Again, in the Odyssey, it was well known that Odysseus was being favored, if you will, by Athena, that she was, his divine patron, if you will. Like, it is mentioned by numerous characters in the Odyssey. It was known. If you were basically getting help from a god, other people likely knew about it. And even Athena, when she is in disguise as mentees or even as mentor, talking to Telemachus, she references that, like, hey, nobody like your dad who was so loved by the gods, is dead. She's like, I doubt that you're gonna be, cursed in any way. Like, there's no way your bloodline is not favored by the gods, or at least a god, because obviously, well, we know Poseidon is mad, but everybody else pretty much is fine. And obviously the major difference between the Odyssey and Epic is that Odysseus and Athena never have a falling out in the Odyssey.
Ever.
It never happens. I mean, she only interacts with Odysseus a couple of times, and it's predominantly near the back third of the story. So again, I think Epic decided to have Athena and Odysseus break up, if you will, to explain away her absence through everything, but given how we've done the gods, to me that choice is one that I kind of cocked my head at, because we're not playing the gods like they're divine figures who would be on your side all the time, because none of the gods have shown up to be like that. Like, even Hermes, who's helpful, shows up and then leaves. And this is where we come to the difficulty of choosing this story in particular, and how Jorge is choosing to tell it, is that in trying, ironically, to keep reasonably true to a lot of events, these changes and things that he's forcing into it to tell the story that he wants to tell start creating little, like, wait, okay, well, you wrote yourself in a corner and then you had to write yourself out. This is just, again, where I say, like I did in my Q&A, is that maybe this story that he really wants to tell might have been suited to a different myth. But that's very much my personal opinion, and again, not to say that what is being done is bad. Well, maybe the treatment of Ithaca thus far, I do have to argue, might be not good writing. Mainly in that I don't understand the infantilization of the character of Telemachus and everything else that's going on with the suitors here. But we're trying to now have Athena basically come in and maybe be a character to Telemachus like she was to Odysseus, but probably not, because that would be really inconsistent with her character given how she basically broke up with Odysseus. I don't know. We'll keep going. I am happy to hear the singer for Athena, and I am sad that in Little Wolf I really didn't get to appreciate how good, obviously, this singer's vocals are, because I was so upset with the content of the song, so please, We'll Be Fine. Don't hurt me again.
And so I thought maybe if I'd made a different call, maybe if I hadn't missed it all, maybe he'd be fine. Maybe we'd unwind.
Made what different call? Like in abandoning him? I mean, she didn't make the wrong call. Odysseus was essentially in the realm of sacrilege in the way he was speaking to her. So like, no, she didn't make the wrong call. These are consequences for his actions. She did nothing wrong. Why are we having her act like this is partially her fault? Please, musical, I hope you're not trying to tell me that what Athena did was wrong and that the way she behaved was wrong. Because I personally don't think what she did was wrong. Odysseus' behavior was out of line. Again, this is very in contrast with the gods as they are in the ancient writings, in that they don't usually look back in this way and say like, well, maybe if I'd done something different, the humans would have done something different. Because they always look at it and say, humans have the choice. It is always the choice of the humans. We can guide them, we can give them advice, we can give them omens and, you know, prophecies and all this stuff, and we can tell them here's what will happen if you do or don't do this thing, but it is ultimately up to the humans. So once again, I am baffled and confuzzled by the way we are doing Athena here, especially when we do Poseidon and Zeus the way that we do. It's like, why have we decided to make Athena the weird odd god out in how we're treating the gods?
I'm left befuddled.
Maybe if I help another soul, maybe if I helped you reach your goal, life could be that bright. I could sleep at night.
This is, again, I'm going to point out, we are in the tail end of the genealogy, if you will, of the Greek hero. Like, this is pretty much the last generation. And the problem is that it's like, why would this one human, when she has seen thousands of years worth of humans, all sorts of different heroes, why is Odysseus so goddamn special? Like, yeah, she fucks with Odysseus, like, that is her dude, but she's also seen all the other heroes, one of whom, Heracles, actually ended up ascending up to Olympus and become essentially a god. Like, Odysseus, you're not that special. He's not. Athena wouldn't treat him that way either. So I really don't like this treatment of Athena. And I'm annoyed in this case also because rather like My Goodbye, we have lovely music going on, this beautiful melody, great singing. The content is just like, why are we softening all these female characters in the way that we're doing? So, I mean, honestly, I would look at this as Circe too. Like, he couldn't just let her be as she is in the Odyssey. We had to soften her and humanize her, and we have to do that with Athena too. But we're not doing that with Zeus. We're not doing that with Poseidon. Like, I don't normally like to sit here and point out that, like, we have a bit of disparity in how we're treating these different gods who have different genders. But let's be real, we do. Like, we're allowing Poseidon and Zeus to be absolute badasses, but Athena has to be the one who's getting too emotional and pushing too hard, and then therefore wrongs Odysseus in that way, but then is now coming in and second-guessing herself when the other two gods don't. I don't love this. And even if this were a male god, I would say I don't love this. Not when they have been around for so long and been watching humanity all this time. Like, again, the gods are not new. They were around long before Odysseus, and they will be around long after Odysseus.
Athena, I don't know who your friend is, I don't know what he's like, but my time with you has been splendid, the best day of my life, cause
Telemachus, he knew Athena and his dad were super tight. Again, so many characters tell him this in the Odyssey, and he's been hearing it essentially all his life. He's been hearing tales of his dad. Athena would have been fucking mentioned, because she pretty much always is. Now granted, Athena in the Odyssey does not initially reveal herself as Athena when she meets him again. First she shows up as Mentis and then makes it clear that it's her, and the same thing when she also then takes the guise of Mentor and then reveals as she leaves that it's her. So he never really talks to her as this is Athena who I'm talking to, this is someone else, even if he guesses it might be a goddess, or a god, at least. He's never really sure which one, because obviously gods and goddesses take on all sorts of different disguises whenever they want to. But he would usually be careful, if that god has not yet revealed themselves, to whether or not he would call them out by name. Now, obviously, in Epic, we don't have her donning any sort of disguises, so he knows it's Athena. So I don't know who your friend is, it's like, who the fuck do you think it is? You know who she was fucking with, in terms of, like, this is her dude. Again, the sort of willful naivete and ignorance of so many of these characters absolutely baffles me. Because I'm sorry, even as an audience, It's really fucking obvious who she's talking about. And also, again, Telemachus would know this. Especially when we had him already say, I've heard all these stories about you. Like, I hear all about you, but I've never met you. But in Legendary, he would know this.
Got in a fight and I didn't die. I've never felt strong before. You're my
Nope. Nope. I already went on enough rants about this.
friend. I couldn't ask for more. And
Friend?
so I think maybe if life wasn't spent as planned, maybe it's time that you lend a hand. I don't think he'll mind. If not his friend, then mine.
Look, just CF my goodbye. I don't need to talk about this dynamic again. But wow, we really just decided to do it twice. Okay.
Okay.
And again, only with Athena. Never any of the other gods. That's cool. That's great.
To fall is to learn one way. Maybe it's all gonna turn out great. I know we'll be fine. I know it's light. You'll find.
You're a good kid.
Thanks.
Well, that's at least in line. Oh, thank God that song was short. If I had to spend another, like, whole amount of time, like, in My Goodbye, losing my mind. Look. Wisdom Saga, again. You got 2 more songs. Salvage yourself somehow, please, with me. And again, because maybe I haven't said it in a while, I'll say it. Like, if you're a big fan of these songs and you like all the changes and everything else that's going on here, don't take my criticism to heart. These are just things that I prefer. I mean, again, this is all very much my opinion, and I don't expect, and I know that many people do not agree with the majority of things that I say, so that's totally fine. I definitely do not see liking this as a criticism on someone's tastes or things that they like. It's just, it's not working for me personally, and I do think it is very odd to infantilize a character like Telemachus in this way when he is a 20-year-old Greek prince. And look, when he speaks in the Odyssey, even in book 1, when he's meeting with Athena in the guise of Mentees and he doesn't realize this is Athena, he speaks in a certain way. And in looking over those lines, I mean, maybe you can gauge certain things out of it, but it's also like, this is political speak. He's speaking in a very specific way because he doesn't want to come off as overly aggressive. Again, he's in this really awkward limbo stalemate with the suitors, and he is verbally having to navigate a difficult situation while trying to show I have enough strength that I, can give and should receive an element of respect, but I'm not so overtly strong that it's like, what is going on here? So you're trying to show only a certain amount of strength, but you don't want to seem weak. And again, he's balancing a tightrope. But even when he speaks of things saying like, I wish I had the strength to throw these suitors out, he's essentially saying, I wish I had the strength of an army. But he doesn't have one because, most of them all went off to fight in Troy, and because a lot of the heroes, I mean, again, there's no alliance like there was when they went to go fight in Troy. That was a very unique situation. And let's also note, all of the heroes got back at different times. With the exception of Odysseus, the one who arrived last was actually Menelaus. He kind of wanders around for like 8 years, but he's with Helen, and they know he's alive because word of him gets back to Greece and other kings and heroes and the like, because, he's not off kind of in uncharted waters or anything. He's like hanging around Egypt for like 8 years with Helen just to like get cool shit. Which, if you read the Odyssey, you learn all about that, and I would wager we're not going to talk about in Epic. Again, these trips he makes to King Nestor and to Menelaus and Helen, I assume we're not going to do. But thus far, I will say, in the way we have introduced Telemachus and Ithaca, I'm almost wishing we hadn't stopped there at all and you just waited to reveal Ithaca in, when Odysseus comes home, and you leave it almost a mystery of like, what is he going to find when he gets home? Because we've gotten, Tiresias has hinted at it, but it's left incredibly vague. Maybe you just hold, like, for once, I'm arguing again for burying the lead. Just bury that lead and get us back home, and then reveal Ithaca, like, what a mess it is, and have him meet Telemachus as he's in the middle of battling the suitors, and Telemachus comes home and is like, oh, this must be my dad or whatever, and then you can have them have reunion. And look, that can pose its own problems, and I'm spitballing here, but it's really this infantilization of the character and the way that we've done the suitors, and even Athena coming in down here, I'm almost wondering if time could have been better spent in other places for this. I did say, it's the Ithaca problem, it's the Telemachus problem. It's really hard to jump around, especially when you lay the story out in a linear format and it's being designed essentially for the stage. You just create difficulties for yourself. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's just like that's the difficulty in adaptation. It's just a problem you reach. In this song in particular, the music is lovely. Again, Athena's singer is phenomenal. We really give her a chance to flex some of her singing chops that are actually more gentle, because a lot of My Goodbye, Warrior of the Mind is very belty, it's very out, projected, and strong. And this is much more gentle. Again, don't know how I feel about that, mainly because I'm disagreeing with the sentiment of the entire song. And this would be like me basically saying, completely rewrite this song, as in make this more of her trying to inspire Telemachus onward. Not this weird, maybe I did something wrong, oh my god, I'm regretting all my choices. Like, Athena, the first book of the Odyssey is called Athena Inspires the Prince. The whole point is she shows up and says, look, I know you've been a little stuck, you're in limbo. She goes, you know, lighting a fire under your ass a little bit. But really she's saying, be confident in who you are. Be confident in the fact that you are your father's son and you're your mother's son, and that, you know, you've been trained, you've been educated, you're ready. You've just sort of deliberately felt like you had to put the brakes on yourself because of what's going around here in Ithaca. So get your ass up, lay down the hammer, and announce it to everybody, not just the suitors. Again, hold this quorum and get all of the elites, if you will, of Ithaca together and lay it out and tell them that you're gonna go on a diplomatic mission to get news of your father, and then go off, at which point he does. And what he gets there, again, is worldly experience, and he introduces himself to other kings. He gets to play at foreign diplomacy and meet some of these great heroes and get a better sense of like, okay, I now have an example in the flesh that I can witness and follow, and figure out how I'm going to deal with this situation with the suitors, because that's really been the issue, is he kind of hasn't known how to deal with it. Not his fault, it's nobody's fault. Again, they're in an awkward limbo. So there's whoopifying and there's infantilizing, which anybody who's familiar with tropes and that kind of language, whoopifying is essentially taking a character and going, oh, poor baby. Like, good examples of whoopifying a character I will be fully guilty of. I love Phantom of the Opera. I go, he's just a sad boy who wasn't treated right. But I mean, in my head, I'm acknowledging the Phantom is a murderer, and he's a stalker, and he's kind of a groomer, and there's like all sorts of awkwardness going on there. But I'm like, but poor baby deserves love. That's kind of whoopifying, if that makes sense. You go, oh, poor baby. You see that a lot with usually villain characters or characters who flirt on the morally gray. This is not whoopifying, this is infantilizing. We've made a, 20-year-old shrewd Telemachus sound like he's 10 years old on the playground, and it's very jarring to me. Somebody, I think it might have been over on the Patreon, had made a comment saying it feels like what was done with Hamilton's son, Philip, in the musical Hamilton. I said, okay, well, when we meet Philip, he's genuinely a child. Yes, he's being played by an adult actor because of the way they double up on roles, but he's legitimately a child, and then later we meet him when he is a teen, and there's a clear difference. So I'm like, that's not infantilization if he's legitimately a child. In this case, Telemachus is not a child. I mean, I'll call him child, but I'm in my early 30s, so I'll just be like, 20, you're a child. I remember being 20. I have brothers, I remember them being 20. Like, oh, you're adorable. So all needless to say, Wisdom Saga, you're in the running for my least favorite saga right now. Please fix this. Please, I'm begging.